The building that never ends.
John McClane had been through hell more times than he could count. From terrorists in high-rise buildings to rogue government agents, he had seen it all. But no matter how tough the situation, no matter how high the stakes, McClane had always come out on top. His greatest strength had always been his ability to endure, to keep fighting, no matter how bad things got.
But what if there was a fight he couldn't win? It was supposed to be a routine trip, a simple security consult at an office building downtown. McClane had done it 100 times before, walked into a building, checked a few boxes, and walked back out. But something about this building felt wrong. The moment he stepped inside, he could feel it, the weight of the place pressing down on him, the air thick with a sense of unease. The lobby was eerily quiet, the usual hum of office chatter and ringing phones replaced by an unsettling silence. McClane frowned, his instincts kicking in. "Something's off," he muttered to himself, glancing around. The receptionist, a pale woman with dark circles under her eyes, barely acknowledged him as she handed him a visitor's pass. She didn't make eye contact, didn't say a word. McClane frowned but brushed it off. Maybe it was just one of those days. He stepped into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a soft hiss. The lights flickered as the elevator began its slow ascent, the numbers ticking upward. 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor. McClane leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, waiting for the elevator to reach the top. But it didn't stop. 5th floor, 6th floor, 7th floor. McClane's eyes narrowed as the elevator continued to rise, the floors ticking by faster and faster. His stomach twisted in that familiar way, the way it always did when something was about to go sideways. The elevator finally jerked to a halt on the 13th floor. The doors slid open with a soft ding, but instead of the polished, modern office space he was expecting, McClane was met with a long, dark corridor. The lights overhead flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. The air was cold, too cold for an office building, and the silence was suffocating. McClane stepped out of the elevator, his hand instinctively going to the gun at his side. Something was very wrong. As McClane made his way down the hallway, the unease grew stronger. The walls were cracked, the paint peeling in long strips. The carpet was worn and stained, as though no one had set foot in this part of the building in years. "Hello," McClane called out, his voice echoing eerily down the empty hallway. No response. He continued forward, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, the end of it obscured by shadows. McClane's grip tightened on his gun, his senses on high alert. But no matter how far he walked, the end of the hallway never seemed to come. It was as though the building itself was playing tricks on him, twisting and warping around him. "Damn it," McClane muttered under his breath. "I've been in worse places than this." He turned around, intending to head back to the elevator. But the elevator was gone. The hallway behind him stretched out just as far as the one in front of him, an endless maze of cracked walls and flickering lights. The longer McClane wandered through the building, the more disoriented he became. The floors were all the same, long, empty hallways that led nowhere, with no windows, no doors, nothing but shadows and silence. It was as though the building had swallowed him whole, trapping him in an endless loop. His sense of time began to slip. He didn't know how long he had been walking. Hours, maybe days. The lights overhead flickered constantly, casting strange, shifting shadows on the walls. Every now and then, McClane thought he heard something, a faint whisper, a distant footstep. But whenever he turned to look, there was nothing. "You're losing it, McClane," he muttered to himself, wiping sweat from his brow. "Get a grip." But no matter how hard he tried to focus, the building wouldn't let him go. Every time he thought he had found a way out, the hallway would stretch on, twisting and turning in ways that didn't make sense. It was like some kind of twisted funhouse, designed to disorient and confuse. As the days, or was it weeks, dragged on, McClane began to lose hope. His gun, once a comforting weight at his side, felt useless in this place. There were no enemies to fight, no terrorists to take down. Just the building, with its endless hallways and flickering lights. The whispers grew louder, more persistent. Sometimes they sounded like voices, faint, distant, calling his name. Other times, they were just noises, scratching, tapping, like something was moving behind the walls. "Come on, McClane," he growled, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "You've been in worse spots than this." But even he didn't believe it anymore. This wasn't a fight he could win with fists or bullets. This was something else. Something he couldn't understand. Something that didn't play by the rules. The final break came one night. Or maybe it was day. McClane couldn't tell anymore. He had been walking for what felt like hours when he heard it. A loud, echoing thud, like something heavy falling to the floor. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Slowly, he turned toward the source of the noise. The hallway stretched out before him, dark and silent as always. But there, in the distance, was a door, a single, heavy metal door that hadn't been there before. McClane approached cautiously, his gun raised. The door was covered in rust, the handle cold and slick beneath his hand. He hesitated for a moment, his instincts screaming at him not to open it. But he had no choice. With a deep breath, McClane turned the handle and pushed the door open.